Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lord Gabriel here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering motivation on this year, Monday morning, rise and shine and give God the glory. And this morning we're looking at a topic, solutions for economic and social downturns, solutions for economic and social downturns, and so how to be able to stay viable when there's an economic downturn, or if you're in a zone that's an economic downturn. So, welcome again to our live talk program. Hopefully, you had a blessed weekend and you're ready to take on this week. And thanks for joining me here as we start our work week. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank you again for the blessings of your word. We thank you, dear Lord, for the wisdom that you give us and the strength that you give us to keep fighting and carrying on, even in downturns, even when things are not going right. May you bless us, dear Lord, we pray for Christ's sake. Amen. So, yes, I'm going to be looking here with you at a social and economic downturn. So, if you're experienced this, if you're living in a zone that has such a downturn, if you're going to be in a downturn because of a loss of a job, whatever it is that you're happening to you, you want to be able to take some of these things and apply them now, before you either hit it, or if you're in it, how to fight your way out of it. So, how solutions for economic and social downturns. So, how to stay in the fight and keep your manhood, integrity, sanity, productivity, and value in any downturn zone, even if crack, meth, alcohol, opiates is flooding your community and many are falling prey to despair. Despair is something that we see around us. It comes in some violent way. If you had paid attention between the end of last week and over the weekend, you noticed that there was a few either bombing threats or mass shooting or attempted mass shooting, and all were connected to men that were going through downturns in their life. They felt like things were not going the way for them, and they were men that were of above middle age. And so it is a shocking thing, and it's a tough thing to watch. And if you had been paying attention to the news, kind of historically, what happened in the 70s, 80s, in the black community, and what is going on now in the white community, you find that it's the same thing each person is faced with. When each person is faced, or each group is faced with the same problem, men tend to turn to drugs and alcohol, violence, very desperate, despairing activities that lead to more problem. Like one thing creates another, and it's the destruction of the society. And we've seen this constantly happen in various different groups and still happening all over the world. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, a lot about that I want to talk about, because I believe this is where the fight gets serious. It's serious when all support is cut off. And as we know, this is what we face in the future as a Christian group, when all support is cut off because men disagree with your take on life and salvation. And so it's important to understand that when support is cut off, despair could set in. So one has to have mental and practical things to do to make sure that you don't succumb and go under when all support is cut off and you feel like life is just not worth it. And so I'm going to read two texts before I go into some of the nitty gritty. Matthew chapter 6, verse 12, Matthew chapter 6, verse 2 and 3. Mark 6. Matthew is the next text I'm going to go to. So Mark 6, verse 2 and 3 says, "And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogues, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, From whence hath this man these things? And what wisdom is this which is given unto him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his hand? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joses, and Judah and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" I don't know what they're doing there with them. "And they were offended at him." So here they didn't like that. Here's a carpenter. So they make sure, pointed out, Jesus, the son of a carpenter, was a carpenter, and this would be real if one would be doing carpentry from a child until 30, and then somebody hear you preach and you sound more erudite probably, and more clarity and more wisdom and depth of understanding than say a person with a PhD at one of these Samaritans, no, no, the Sanhedrin. That would be fascinating and clear. But that tells you some of the solution right here about Jesus, that Jesus was a man that could use his hand and his brain to do physical labor. In other words, carpentry. It takes brain and hand. It's not like a job where you're just lifting stuff and stuff like that. It's a job where you have to be able to have some creativity and some artistry. If you ever see good carpentry, you realize it's not just shapes, it's not just squares and rectangles and circles, but many of it comes with artistry. We don't know what level of work Christ did. I'm sure if there was a carpentry that he did, it would be in museums all over the world. But this idea here of the carpenter, he had a physical labor, but also he had a mental labor, specifically preaching and teaching. So Christ here was had two different abilities in one, and this is to me one of the ways. Didn't go to the text for that, but I just wanted to show you how powerful the text is. This is one of the ways that Christ was able to come out of a downturn. Remember, Christ was preaching from a place of a downturn. He was from Galilee. They were well known for being rebel rousers and viewed by even one of Christ's disciples as nothing good can come out of Galilee. So hence you take some of the roughest areas, whether it be Appalachia or whether it be any of the urban inner city ghettos, and yet you can come out of that. So if Christ can come out of it, you can survive it. This is simply what I get from one of the things I get from his text. The other thing also is that the carpenter would not be the upper echelon of society. Hence, the lower you are in your economic situation, it's the harder it is for you. It's easier for you to fall because you're at the bottom. It's like this: if a person is at the top, they can humble themselves and do a lower job. But if you're at the lower rungs and you lose your job, well, there's no lower for you to go. So Christ here was a carpenter, and still to this day, there's carpenters, and then there's people who do carpentry that make phenomenal money. Most actually, if you're a carpenter and you're doing, say, cabinets and other type of wood products for, for high-end customers, you're gonna make a lot of money. So you're gonna make money that probably people who have a law degree and a doctorate is making. So this is the type of situation that happens. And so when you look at this, poverty or being poor, or being at the poor rungs of life, doesn't mean that you can't keep your head up. You can't do wonderful things. Remember, Christ called fishermen. So these were not men that were be the upper level of society. So the being at a blue collar job is fine. There's hard labor and a good day's labor is respectable no matter what labor you do. Very important. And I might say this, that I've noticed that the kind of talk that people talk down just about the poor or people who are lower rungs, they'll make it that the attitudes a lot of times I notice around the area is that if you're a person that flips burger and you're doing an honest day's job, you're nobody, you need to go to college. And might not everybody will be able to survive in college. So you have to know, look, don't listen to all these people talking stuff. Not everybody's going to make the same amount of money, and that's okay. So this is how you have to ignore this type of noise, especially if you're in an economic downturn and you have to do something menial to get by. But you're getting by, and all labor is honorable. Christ was a carpenter, and Christ had to depend when he did ministry upon the donations of those that supported his ministry, not from those who are part of the main line. Christ never got paid from the people who were from the system. He didn't pay for the system. Matthew 26 verse 11 says, "For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always." So the poor is always going to be with Christ. So when I'm talking here for the rest of the time, I'm talking about if you run into hard times, how to keep your head up, how to keep going, how to not be beaten down. Because as I say, if you look at the shooting, these are men who basically things are not going well for them, and they lost it. They started to see people who are doing well as a target to kill. People who probably they think they should be doing better than as a target to kill. And that's something is just a lost situation. You don't want to be like that. You want to know that there's a possibility in life that you could be poor. You got to face that. You're going to face that things could happen to you, that you could lose everything. It's why I love the Bible, because what the Bible does, the Bible shows me Job. It's one of the earlier examples that you get in the Bible of a character. And you see that Job not only lost his family, he lost his money, and also he lost his health. And yet Job still was a man. Yet Job still kept his head up. Yet Job did not go into such deep despair, even though his pain was so severe. He still had hope in God. And when you have that, it is like your will is unbreakable, even in sickness. And you got to get to this point in your life where you face it, that a tornado, a hurricane, a fire, a sickness, something could cause you to lose everything. And sometimes we're one car accident away from this. And so many of what I'm going to share, and I'm already sharing here, is so simply say to you that no matter how the economic downturn, you don't have to go down with it. You don't have to make it take you down. No matter what sickness or health befall you, you can still burst through, you can still punch through and keep moving forward. As I say, if you look at the story of Job, you see very clearly that Job just didn't lost his money. He lost his family also. He lost his health. But in all of that, Job didn't say, give me some crack and let me die. He didn't say, give me some meth and let me die. He keep fighting. So we need to know that, because again, for you have the poor always. So, it's one thing in life to think of being a winner. It's another thing in life not only to think of being a loser, but in a situation where you're losing, you're not winning the game of life. You're that person that they have around you. You become poor. And so if that's the situation, you want to know what to do. And number one, what to do to know that says that you won't be the first person. As I said to people all the time, that if you're going through a bankruptcy, people who are richer than you have been through bankruptcy and going through bankruptcy. If you're going through financial loss, people who have being graduated from places like Wharton School of Business, from Harvard School of Business, I think there's such a thing, and so forth, they have lost their money. People who are the person who is now currently a president of the United States, he has been bankrupt 4 times or 6 times. I don't even can't even figure out how much, but definitely it's 4 times he has crashed how many companies. He has sent how many investors with him into bankruptcy. And look at it, he's now the president of the United States. So you can take heart and know that it's, bad things will happen to you. You could go through a divorce. You could make mistakes and even sin and cause a crash and failure. It doesn't mean that you're going to stop life and say, you're giving up. We have to all deal with rejection. We have to all deal with sickness. We have to all deal with death in our family. Whether somebody died at a young age when we were young, or somebody died when we were at a critical place in our life that caused failure. We have to all deal with these downturns. These downturns, that's why I say it's solutions for economic and social downturns. Sometimes it's a loss of a friend. Sometimes it's somebody moving away that is, critical to your life and things go bad. But in all that, you know that this is part of life and you're not supposed to go down. All that, you know that people are in better situation than you, had better opportunity. The stars that aligned for them, and yet they still fail. They still lost it. They still went through tragedy, and they survive. You can survive also. You wouldn't be the first person. And you take note, you say, I'm going to fight. And you just take that attitude, and that attitude, you wouldn't be the first person to fight. If you fight hard, no matter what life throw at you, and if you die trying, you wouldn't be the first person. And so you can take note and say, well, most probably give up, but some fight back. Be one of those that fight back. So first point here, I believe that is important. I believe this is what we talk about tomorrow, but I say it now. Find a church that is facing and trying to deal with reality or the reality. So find a church that is facing reality. I'm gonna tell you that most churches I've ever visited or belonged to, they did not face reality. They don't face reality. You could have right now. There's so many crises going on. There's the various drug crisis, the alcohol include drugs and alcohol, economic crisis. Because although they say the economy is doing good, there's so many dead zones across the United States and across the world. So many dead financial zones and social zones, just dead. It's just death and destruction all around. There's the opiate crisis. There's the obesity epidemic. There's other sickness epidemic like cancer and so forth. But you could be going to a church and they talk, they're like whistling, walking and whistling and looking up in the sky and just ignoring all the dead bodies falling around them. And if you're being affected by any of those things, you could go to a church that just say, oh, no, we don't want to talk about that. Let's just praise the Lord. Or you could go to a church and say, we're going to address that. We're going to talk about it. We're going to deal with reality. So one of the ways to do is to face the problem and to be part of a healing group. That's basically what I call a church, or what a church should be, I should say. That is trying to address these problems, face them, talk about them, preach about them, come up with solutions, have working solutions for them. Minimum, even a sermon. And facing reality, because this is reality. Or their reality, whatever reality you're facing around you. If you're going to a church and you constantly have to be repairing the pews or the chairs because, the weight limits are being exceeded by the people sitting on the chairs and they're breaking them down. Probably, and economic dead zone, there's two jobs, two businesses can come out of that. One business to do repair for other churches in the local neighborhood, plus your church. And you start saying, oh man, I think I get a business idea. Or start building chairs that could sit people heavier than 350 pounds. That's one business. Another business is to try to do things to do with weight loss and exercise. A gym, a restaurant, cooking classes, anything that you can figure out, I can make some money off this. And I could help some people while making some money. So just understanding that facing the reality doesn't simply mean we talk about it. Simply means we try to come up with solution. But remember, all of the jobs that we do, I think every single job that somebody do, all right, I've thought about this many times, and probably I've missed a job. But every job that we do, for the most part, our jobs are connected with sin, right? That's what we do. We service sin. That's what we do for a daily job. And the results of sin. So, there might be one or two jobs out there, that are just generic needs. If you do water treatment, it's just a need. You work in the water industry to get water to people. I'm probably in the oil industry. Some of these industries, they just need, you make clothing. Well, you see, there you go. Clothing, according to the Bible, it became a need because of sin. That's what the Bible teaches. There probably wouldn't be no clothing industry if there was no sin, right? Shoe industry, I'm not sure because I don't know how the earth was. But we know that after the flood, everything became jagged and rough and dangerous for a foot, and so forth and so on. But you get it. So just understand, in an economic downturn, there's jobs. You see, normally in an economic downturn, the people who start getting money or making money are the drug dealers and the prostitutes, and anything to do with entertainment, smoking, tobacco, gambling, because now people are hoping to spend $1 and win a fortune. So lottery, gambling. If you go into communities that are of economic downturn, you think about it, everything that they're doing is nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about here for the rest of the time. They're doing things to make people forget their trouble, not address their trouble and come up with solutions. So there's a place for you again to be part of a church who's actually fighting the opposite direction. So instead of people being despair and you're trying to make them go high so they forget, or go drunk so they forget, or they gamble so they forget, they get their mind off it by doing things that end up causing them to become worse. We now work to try to figure out ways to fix the problem and fight back instead of going to the dark abyss of prostitution, of drug dealing, of alcoholism, of gambling, marijuana, all these things is more moving. No, you know this well, that every time there's an economic downturn, the movie industry takes off. So more, shoot up movies, more fantasy movies, more pornography, more anything. People want to go into a fantasy because the reality is so down. But the gospel came to deal with that downturn. And you and I are supposed to be about our Father's business. We're supposed to be fighting back. We're not supposed to be succumbing to it. And how to do it is the things I'm talking about. So be part of that, because you be part of that, it becomes a bright light in the darkness that we're dealing with. So no matter how dark it is to me, this is where our function is. You're supposed to be able to be part of a church that you feel like you're not succumbing, and it's not basically escapism. So, I don't believe in just go sing away the night. Nope, we need to be planning and scheming or talking about it and mentoring each other, doing a group therapy. To me, that's how I see church. So find a church that is facing and trying to deal with the reality. Another point here is realign your role and value in your home, not just a breadwinner. So it's important when you right now, not when a downturn happens, right now. But if a downturn happened and you're part of that, you're being gobbled up by that good downturn. You lost your job, or you're home and you don't know what to do, and you can't find a job because there's more people seeking job than those that are getting jobs. Then what you want to do is it's best to start now. You hear me now? As a guy, you need to realign your role in your family. If your only role in your family is a breadwinner, you're setting up yourself for failure. Life comes and go. Life ebbs and flow. There's just the process of life that whatever goes up will come down. Whatever goes down will come back up. So while things are on the downturn, if your only value in your home is to bring in money, and you lost your job, then you lost your role in life. And I guarantee many of these men who are shooting up the place, and you look at it, all these young men and old men, shooting up the place, and many of them you find in their mother's basement. I shouldn't say basement, they're living with their mother, because that's assuming their mother has a basement. It could be their mother has an apartment and they're sleeping on the sofa. And just imagine that's their value. So if I can't bring in the money, I have no value. And the value is more than this in life, because as Christ says, life is not just in the abundance of the things that you own. Because the abundance of the things that you own ultimately assume that you're a breadwinner. But if you lose your job and you go through economic downturn, if there's a famine in the land, and your farm didn't produce because there's no water, there's a drought, or the locusts ate everything. Now what are you going to do? Go find a gun and put it in your head? No. You realign the value from now and make sure that your value is not 100% built upon your ability to earn an income. You have other value to your family. You bring joy to your family, stability. There's some other things in the list that I'm going to talk about that you do to make sure that that's not your only value, because I say you would not be the first man to lose his job. But we notice when these things happen, the guy takes the bigger hit, or the guy run out of town. He run away from his family because that's the only thing he sees himself there. He doesn't see himself as a father that, or a husband that binds the family together. He sees himself just as somebody that pays the bills, and that's it. And if that's your only value, you can quickly lose your place when the company sells and move out of town. and you can't move with it. So realign your role and value in your home. And again, many of the things I'm going to talk about next will clarify this point or bolster it a little bit more. Not just be a breadwinner. When the storms of life are causing the billows to roll, it is good for the occupants in that ship or whatever ship you have to know there's a captain at the helm. So normally the family is band together by the husband. And so if you notice here, all these problems that we're facing where in any community you find when the husband is removed, then as I say, all hell break loose. The kids become rogue and things start going bad. Then you start to look and say, well, there's more value to a man than simply his ability just to make some money. So you're still the captain of that ship. You're still going to sail that ship. And remember, as I say, whatever goes up, must come down. And whatever go down must come back up. It's just the principle of life. Things ebbs and flow. There's quiet times and then there's exciting times. You need to start taking the helm of the ship and start to be a husband and a father in a more serious way. Because I'm going to tell you, sometimes things happen in just a year or 2 or 3, even could be 5 years of a downtime. But you're still the husband and you still need to be that man in the house. And then when things come back in your way, you start making some money again. Then, it's like it's summertime again and the seas are calm, but you're still at the head of the helm of the ship. So don't make something go down and you crash and burn before it can come back up. Just keep working and it will be all right and you'll be all right. And you don't have to be like that situation. So what if you end up back at mommy's house and you have to move your whole family back with mommy and daddy? You wouldn't be the first person that to happen to. You're still at the head of the ship. You're just going to figure it out. One of the things I always, that a habit that I developed over the years, because of what I used to do for a living, is that I always have a calculator at my desk. And if I have to be on the road too much, I put it in my knapsack and I carry the calculator. Now I carry it less because I don't travel with it because I have a calculator on my smartphone. But I've gotten so used to a calculator that I use a calculator often. Because one of the principles I've learned in life in the past, and I still hold to it to be dear, is that the numbers never lie. If you do your calculation properly, your numbers are always true. As a guy, you need to be very familiar with a calculator. And not necessarily the more advanced features on the calculator, just the basic addition and subtraction, multiplication, and so forth. You need to be familiar with those functions because you need to be able to know the numbers. And you have to be able to be calculating the numbers. You have to do your budget. You have to do whatever you're doing. If you don't cut the check, you got to know your budget. If you don't know your budget, I just think as a guy, you're failing. You're not at the helm. Even, as I say, even if you're not paying the check, you got to know the numbers. You got to sit there and go learn the numbers. If you're not learning numbers, you need to give me an explanation. Why? Why? As a guy, a calculator need to be one of your major tools. If you're not doing this, I don't know what you're doing. Calculate. Make the calculation, because often your economic downturn could just simply mean you're going to bankruptcy and you don't know it. Or you could be living a different lifestyle because you don't know it, because you're not doing any calculation. You don't know what's going on with them numbers. You're just paying bills. And if you're doing that, you're just joking. You're not doing life. You're not being a captain. You're not leading. You're just basically existing. Another important point here is learn natural health. I believe this is important. Learn natural health. Remember, it's not just here, but other places where health insurance and other things is not just enough. Even if you have health insurance, it's not just enough to, good enough for your family. You always can do more than your doctor can do for you. Most of the time, your doctor do something for you when it's an emergency, when things are going bad. You don't want to wait until sickness become a norm in your house. You need to learn natural health. Well, all you do when you learn natural health is you're learning how to take care of your body and your family's bodies. without have to make things get to a point where you need to be rushed to a hospital. And then you're gonna have to start paying medical bills, and medical bills can take you out. But you don't want things to get to that point. It's not just about avoiding the hospital, it's about living a healthier life in this point and time, and learning how to use natural remedies that are always much cheaper. So know some remedies, know some natural health, know how to eat better, know what is it to do for your family when your family is sick. These things and ways is part of you realigning your value in the house as a guy, that your only value is not just I'm here and I'm here to basically pay the bills. And many guys don't even pay the bills. They just make the money. Don't even know what's going on with the bills being paid. And then things are a mess. Learn natural health. This is part of your role in your family. You're taking on new roles. So if there's an economic downturn and all around you, you see people selling crack, your family, you ever see that picture where there's like everything in black or in gray and white, and then there's a rose and it's in red? That's what your family is supposed to be in any zone. I don't care where you are, where you're listening to me from, what city, what suburb, what rural area, and there's blight all around, but not you, because guess what happened? You have other means and ways. You're leading your family. Your wife is going to be a backup or a helpmate, not even a backup, a side up, or a helpmate. They'll help you out. You're going to be leading your family. So if it's an economic downturn and your wife can get a job, guess what she's going to do? Get a job. And she's going to do what she's going to do, because, as I say, whatever goes down, going to come back. You're going to come back up. But again, you realign your role. So one of the ways you realign your world is you are now part of the doctoring of your family. This is how you're going to eat. This is how we're going to sleep. This is how we're going to herb up ourselves. This is what we're going to do for ourselves. We are going to take care of our health. It's cheaper. It's better. It's going to be healthier. You're going to be in a better situation. So learn your herbs. Learn your natural modality of treatment. If your children get sick, you must know what to do to doctor them back to good health. That's your role. When you start having a role like that, your role is not just you're there and here's the money. You're there as the father in the house. Your father in the house. All right, so very important. Another important point here is to stay healthy. Stay healthy. Don't throw your body up. Don't throw your body away. Don't just sit there and just gorge on garbage. Don't just sit there and not exercise. Your mind, your physical body is very important, not just to the Lord, but to you and to your family. Your health is of utmost importance. You're supposed to be the leader when it comes down to the person who first goes out and exercise. Do your push-ups, do your various different calisthenics, go for your walk, your hike, your bicycling, whatever it is. You do that and you make sure you stay healthy. Look, you're in an economic downturn, everybody's broke and nobody has a job, but at least you look fit and you look healthy. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And you're going to do this, and you're going to do this on the least amount of money, while others would have to take a lot of money to do it. I'm going to tell you, the lifestyle that we live when we follow the word of God is way cheaper, and it's a higher level lifestyle than those who have a lot of money. When you think about that, as a matter of fact, I tell people, one of the best stores you can go to if you have money. People who have money tend to want to go to like Whole Foods. I don't even go there. I'm not even like, it's rarely. I don't like shopping at Whole Foods. I don't like shopping at Trader Joe's. I have better option. And when you think about that, I want to settle in a little bit. I have better option. I shop better. And that's important for you to know. And I spend less. All right? So you got to be in that type of mindset that you can do better and you have less. And when you start to get into that mindset, that's when you're making all the options work. You fight that battle. You don't just sit there and wait for stuff to happen. You start to think a little bit. Where do I have to go? Now I have to go more places. I have to shop more than the average person. I tell people all the time, I shop I shop at the European supermarket. I shop at the Asian supermarket. I shop at the Indian supermarket. I shop at any supermarket and find an edge. I shop at the internet supermarket, which is Amazon.com for now. And you just go around and you just get what you have to get where you have to get it. I shop for the item from the ethnicity that sells the item because they're always going to do it for cheaper. If you want to buy persimmons, you go to the Asian supermarket. If you want to buy ginger, you go to the Asian or the Indian supermarket, and so forth and so on. Now, you sometimes go to the regular health food store and you can get like organic ginger, organic aloe, organic turmeric, that type of stuff. So I go there, but I won't shop at this one place. I shop at all the sources because, as I say, depends on the ethnicity. They eat certain foods more, so I shop wherever the ethnicity eat for that type of food, stuff like that. Just all these things. So now notice I realign. I'm realigning my function in my family. My function is not just based upon I'm a breadwinner. I'm also a bread saver. I got to figure out how to make sure that I get the best at the cheapest price or at the most sensible price. So I can tell you, like, you could go to, like, because I've done this in the past, you could go to even big wholesalers and you buy, as an example I was showing a few months ago, to my church, you could buy cashews and almonds from a big wholesaler. And you could buy it cheaper at the Indian supermarket than a wholesaler could wholesale you 25 pounds. You could buy 2-3 pounds for less per pound from the Indian supermarket. There's just nowhere else you can buy it like that. But nobody else uses it like them because they're primary plant-based eaters. So you got to be able to know that you're fighting a battle, and many times every 50 cents count. And sometimes you need to know when you don't want to save 50 cents, if that makes sense. There's times when you don't want to save 50 cents because it's not worth it. If you, as I say, if you're buying regular conventional in comparison to organic, you spend extra money, but you just save the money over here, if you follow my drift. So if you save it here, I can spend it over here, and that's the reality. And then but you're doing your numbers. So you know your numbers. You're in your numbers. If you're not in your numbers, as I say, what is your role? Because as I said, things come up and things go down. And and then that's just the reality. Sometimes you have to know you can spend $4 or $5 for a nice organic bread, or you could spend probably $2 and make an organic bread. You gotta make up your mind. What do you do? That's $3. How long is it gonna take you to make that bread? That's $3 that you didn't have to spend. So this is where, and I'm gonna come to those points in a second. So this is where it's important. So again, my point there was stay healthy. You have to stay on your game. You can't be dying of diabetes until it's the time. If say God says call you home, he call you home. But right now you fight, and you're fighting for your family. Next point here is have some friends to talk to. Have some friends to talk to. It is sad again to watch that. If you look at probably the last 5 years, and you look at look at it, I've looked at it hard. You need to look at it also. The shootings that have happened, the mass shootings. Even when I've looked at the ones when there was the person attempted to kill 4 or 5 or more people, but he didn't succeed. Look at those also. You're gonna find a very sad reality that the person is isolated. They lived a very lonely life and they didn't have much friends. And you find this is how the devil works. When you're young, you think you have a lot of friends. As you get older, your friends disappear, they dry up. You got to know that. And you got to know that this is how the devil does. The devil aim is to isolate all of us and to make us die lonely. You got to fight that. The devil aim is to get you on your own so he can kill you. You got to know that. And so he gets us with social behavior like drugs and alcohol that ultimately ends in loneliness. So don't make yourself succumb to the darkness of the evil one by being isolated. When you're in a downturn, you cannot get isolated. This is of imperative. Don't get yourself isolated, no matter what the downturn. Say you're downtown where you messed up, you made a fool of yourself, and you literally was not the man in the house. You went out and you had, an outside relationship, and you got exposed, and now you're going through a divorce and stuff like that. Whatever you do, still don't become isolated. Whatever sin that you get yourself into, just always remember, isolation work against us as human beings. Don't get isolated. All right, that is just, I don't know how much more to say that. Don't reject help. Don't reject a call, a help, a suggestion. You're not on your own. Don't choose to be on your own. You will regret it, because you'll find that you'll start to slip and there's nobody to help you, because you've either rejected it or you become lonely. So another point here is stay away from stimulants. This is one of the big obvious here, so I won't spend too much time here. Stay away from stimulants. All right, very important. It's a temptation when you're going through your down to basically pick yourself back up with a chemical. Don't do it. Don't succumb to it. It's better, as I say, to go exercise. It's. I know it might not look right, and people might get upset if you look all trimmed and buff, and you're not working. I know it doesn't look right, but you're not doing it because you just want to look wrong. You're just doing it because you gotta feed the mind. Even if you wake up in the day and the only thing good going on for you is that you look in the mirror, you're thinking, man, that looks good. If that's the only thing going on for you, look, make it happen. And probably that's going to be the only thing that's going to keep you married. Because that's probably the only thing. Because your wife is going to be like, I'm going to have to keep this one. But don't stay away from stimulants. Use other means and the things I'm talking about here to keep yourself going. As I say, belong to a church, learn natural health, exercise, learn how to save every penny. That's what I mean. If you're home, and I know these principles will apply to a female, but we're not talking about that right now. But if you're home and a female and you're not working and stuff like that, and you make a bread, and it says in the bread, I've known people sit and do the calculations. I never do the calculations. But say the bread costs you $2 worth of material, and you put the finest, best material in that bread. But you would have to buy the same bread, say, for $6, $7. Because you put the finest, best material. Most of the time, manufacturers don't put all that in there. So the bread would be is a gourmet bread. And you just made a bread, and you put $2 worth of material and $4 labor. That's $4 that you didn't have to go there. Your husband earnings didn't have to go out there and spend. You know what I'm saying? That's $4. So you got to know your value. But as a guy, it's the same thing. It's just all labor. And sometimes labor is what you're saving yourself. You get what I'm saying? So it's all labor. So make that labor count. So again, avoid stimulants. Part of your stimulants, as I say, to me is exciting when you're in this game of life and you basically fighting on all kind of fronts. That's part of your motivation. You will never get depressed if you do this, because what it is that every day you're figuring out how to fight for every dollar. You know what that does when you start making some money again? What will happen to you is that you will know when you start making some money again how to make that money really work. I started that point, but I forget this point. So the lifestyle we live in Jesus, what we live, because many people follow Jesus, but they don't live like this, is what we do, what we can do, say with, $40,000 or $50,000 or I don't know, whatever the average income in America is. We can do way more than the average family out there. Just as again, think about it. If you're doing all the things I say so far and the rest of it that I'll say in the next few minutes, and you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't buy, jewelry, you don't buy for the season, you just buy clothes that you need, and just so on and on and on, all the entertainments of all this stuff. All of that you cut out of your life, all that fluff, that unnecessaries, just accoutrements and, you know, bells and whistles that you don't need. You find out when that person needs an extra $10,000, $20,000, that family, that's $10,000, $20,000 that you don't need to make. That means you don't need to earn that $10,000, $20,000. You don't need to earn that $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. That is, in many situations, another person working in the home. And because you have learned to live a certain way, you don't need that extra $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. That extra job, even if you lose it, you have the means of earning. Remember, a principle, I remember Ellen G. White said that, I think I always say, man, this is so powerful. I think people need to understand it. That in your home, it in itself is an industry. It in itself is a way to make money. But you might not know that, so you don't know how to take this amount of money and live like a king, as she said. But you have less money, but you're living like a king. And so it's the very important. Okay, another point real quickly here is practice cost-saving measures before and definitely why in a downturn. So we talk about some of those already. Practice some cost-saving measures while in a downturn. Again, there's many money that people, you know, make that they really didn't even need to make it because they weren't practicing cost-saving measures. If you can save yourself $100, $200 and you're warm, you have fresh drinking water, you know, clean drinking water, and you have food, you're taking care of the basic necessities of life. A lot of other things off of that you can trim, or you can figure out ways to do it cheaper. And the moment you start figuring out that, and you start saving yourself $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, that's money you're gonna have to earn, and that's money you're gonna save because you always have to save for a rainy day. So you practice these things and you figure out, how am I gonna win at this battle? Because remember, everybody's out there trying to take your money, but you're trying to keep it, and you try to keep as much of it, still while living a good life. Next point here is help the oppressed, poor, fatherless, widow, and stranger. I thought this was very important when I thought about that, all this mass shooting with these men because they feel like nothing's going on for them. I tell you, all of them would have fixed their problem if they get up and they say, you know what, Pen? I had it. I'm done. I'm fed up. I'm going to go there instead and I'm going to help a poor person. I'm going to help a minority. I'm going to help a stranger. And I bet that will solve the problem. You see, Jesus knows what's best is the solution for a person who is not doing too well. Jesus told the Israelite, when you get rich, remember the poor, remember the strangers, remember the fatherless and the widow. Why? Because one day you might become a fatherless, a stranger, or a widow. So remember them. Because if you knew you helped them when they were going through their time of trouble, when you're going through your time of trouble, you know that God will bless you. And you know what happened? Not only help is on its way, but you did the right thing. Remember, one of the things I really believe why Job survived mentally when he was in his downturn, it was because Job was eyes for the blind and he was help for those who were suffering and those who were oppressed. He did the right thing. So when now he was vulnerable, he didn't have no conscience with it. He didn't have to feel bad about it. So the mind didn't destroy him. See, but if you're hateful to those who are less fortunate, when you're less fortunate, you're going to feel miserable. I always tell people this. Be careful how you legislate and pass rules and vote things against the poor, because you might be poor one day. You might become old one day. And I believe, again, this is one of the reasons why one of the baby boomers are killing themselves. Because they created a world that was not sympathetic to the plight of the less fortunate. So now they're going to become less fortunate. They're going to be going into nursing homes. And many people in nursing homes are these foreigners that they have spit hate against all their life. So now how life is going to be for them in a nursing home? They're coming in a world now where their son-in-law, hopefully I'm saying this right, is now one of these Negroes. They're coming in life where their child father-in-law or their child's stepfather is now one of these strangers or one of these people who are black. And imagine if you spend all your life talking bad about somebody and treating them bad, and they become now your son-in-law or your son's or daughter's stepdad. That will feel bad. You feel like, oh man, this makes me miserable because these are the people I don't like. So I'm going to tell you, one of the solutions for downturns is to go help somebody that is already in a downturn. Remember, there's people who every day they get up, they're in a downturn. You know, there's somebody right now who that's their life. That's all they're living. They're living in a downturn. They're not living in the best communities, and they're not eating the best food and doing the best, and having the good life. And they're keeping their head up. They're fighting. They keep struggling. So then you go help them, and then what will happen? You will learn from them how, no matter how poor you are, that you can smile too. And that's what you want to be when you are a man. Just learn that, hey, look, when things go bad, I'm just keep fighting. And when it's good, praise the Lord. But I'm just keep fighting. Another point here is learn another method of earning money. And now is the time to learn another method of earning money. You should not be a one-horse show or a one-trick pony. You gotta have another method, a secondary method of earning money. Even if it's a method that is a lower income method, but it's a fallback plan. Your fallback plan should always be something else. And you gotta just know, what is your other method of earning money? And something that even you practice right now. Just go ahead and do 2-3 hours of something on the side that you earn money. So that if you should lose your main job, you have a fallback plan. Always have a fallback plan. So learn another method of earning money is always an important thing. Remember, Christ was a preacher, but he was a carpenter. His disciples, for the most part, they were being taught to be fishers of men, but they were fishermen. And you saw 1 or 2 times even in the ministry of Christ that they went back to fishing. And Christ's like, no, I'm calling you to a new labor. I want you to forget the nets and go catch people. And others of them were accountant or law or doctor or so forth, or tax collector. It's good to have in the system in Israel. There was 2 ways of earning income. I always find it strange where somebody minor or major in the same subject. If you're in college, you're making a mistake. You need to have a minor in a secondary way of earning a living. 2 different things. So that means if it's some part-time money, if you finish the year and all you made was part-time $10,000, and that's all the money you came in with, I'm going to tell you that's income. That's 10 grand in your hand. That if you practice these things I'm talking about here, that's 10 grand can become like 20 grand. And all of a sudden, because you learn other methods. As I always say, when you are a servant, if your role in the house is a servant, you're there to serve your family. That means you know how to wait table, cook food, clean the food. So that takes me to another point, another 2-3 points down the road here. Become your own handyman. That there's a job in being a handyman, and also there's multiple jobs that you do as a handyman, and probably one of those jobs going to become your next career. If you're handy, you'd never be out of a job. There's always something. Now, you might not be consistently making a certain amount of money, but you can always make money because there's always somebody that needs a door to be changed, a window to be put in or replaced, a floor to do, a faucet to be replaced, a sink to be replaced. Something needs to happen. If you're handy in your house, you can do all that. You can say, well, I made $10,000. Some of it I'm going to pay tithe. Some of it I'm going to pay offering. Some of it I'm going to pay tax. And some of it we're going to replace that cabinet. And you're handy, you're going to be able to put that cabinet in. Now imagine you put the cabinet in and you save yourself $500. So now you spend probably, $300 for the cabinet. You did $500 worth of labor. You have to tear down an old one, put in a new one. Wow, you just saved yourself $500. That's money that you didn't have to spend, but that's value you're building. That's money that it comes to you. Again, that's $500 you keep or $500 you just didn't spend. So become a handyman. Another important point around the house is learn to cook. As a guy, it's important for you to learn to cook. Again, it's just a skill. You never know. Probably one day you're gonna see yourself in a restaurant, owning one or working in one. It's just a skill. Having multiple skills and being able to do multiple things, ain't nothing wrong with that. So somebody said, well, what if my wife can cook? Doesn't matter. You're the man. You're taking this thing and you're taking this bull by the horn, and you're gonna learn to do domestic chores. There's a wall to be painted. There's a socket to be replaced. There's a lock on the door that's broken and needs to be fixed. I remember one time when we were renting an apartment, the socket, the lock wasn't working, and I saw the handyman came, the building soup they call him, and he came and he took some WD-40 and he sprayed it in the lock. He turned it a few times, did the keys, bam, it worked again. I was like, WD-40, and it worked for them. And so you have to become a handyman. Yeah, you got to be a handyman. And I'll just say these two little principles here. You got to become your own handyman, learn new technology, do a garden to lower your food costs and to become healthier, and dial back and dial down your taste. You do these things, and I'm going to tell you, God will bless you, and you will have a better solution, better situation in a downturn, in an economic downturn. So thank you, O Lord, again for your love and your blessing. I pray that you may be with us, dear Lord, as we deal with these downturns and these problems. May thy grace go with us, we pray, for the rest of this day, for Christ's sake. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow morning again, where we should talk about the importance of church. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.